Ya di dun di dun di dun dun di dun dun din dum di dum bum 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 di da 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 ay 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 ah di dum bum 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 di dum bum 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 di da 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 ay da da ya dun 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 oy da di dum ya dun 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 oy da di dum ya dum bum 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 oy da di ra ra di da di ra ra di ra ra di dum di ra ra di dum di ra 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 di dum bum bum di ra ra di dum Ti-di-di-di-di-dum, ti-di-di-di-di-di-dum, ti-da-da-da-dum. I wanted to start with this Niggun because most of the time I start with sort of serious contemplative Niggunim. But I want to talk about dancing as a prayer today. So I took this Bobover melody, and it's a melody that I dance to. There used to be a time when I was serving as a shochet in the morning, and in the afternoon I would teach children in the Talmud Torah. This is part of the rabbi job that I had in Fall River. So you can imagine you come from having killed chickens to teach children. So I had one record there. It was a recording of a Greek hasapiko that sounds very much like a good klezmer tune. And it's a 5-minute recording. And I would lock myself in the office before I went to the class and put on that record and dance to it. And that was another way of moving my body from one place into another place. So there is a dance that is like sometimes you taste something to refresh your palate, you know. So there's an issue that the dance comes out in such a way that it takes you from one place to another place. People feel funny about being seen when they dance alone. Always it makes you feel a little squeezy. Come on, isn't it crazy to dance by yourself alone, even if you don't hear any music, you know? You dance by yourself alone. But I tell you, when David is dancing before the Lord, you know, and Michal, his wife, can't get it because she thinks that he is acting like a cheap guy, you know, who is sporting himself before the women of the town. And so she doesn't forgive him easily. But then the Tanakh tells that she was barren. She never had babies. And I'm thinking, for instance, of the people who don't understand this, that there is trance dance. But even if I'm not going into that deep form of dance, something happens when I take my body out of its lock. And I'm not going to demonstrate, okay? But you saw already when I was doing this, when we were singing, there is something in which the body wants to participate in that. And that's why people shuckle and make gestures and so on and so forth, because that's exactly how they are doing that. We don't hear chazanim much anymore, you know? The classical chazanim, when they would begin a recitativo, and the people would listen to that thing and they hum along, they would give him a chord, usually in a minor chord to sustain and shift with him when he would do that. And he would go and do curlicues and go into falsettos, and but what made a chazan, what they called an omid kinstler, meaning someone who at the prayer desk the artist of the prayer desk. That's what an Omid Kinstler is. So when they had somebody like this, he was able to take the words to such places that the people would begin to feel them. So there is a prayer that happens once a month, the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh, and it's called Benchen Rosh Chodesh, to pray for a good moon. And the Chazan in those days was hired when he would show how he does the Yehi Ratzon, how he does that prayer. Because in there you're praying Chaim shel Tova, Chaim shel Brocha, Chaim shel Parnosa, Chaim shel Chilutz Atzomet, Chaim shel Yerushalayim, Chaim shel Oishav V'Kovet. You're coming in a whole shopping list of things that you would like to have your life be filled with it, you know? So you can imagine when first the Chazan would say, Ay v'titen lanu Chaim, Chaim, Ay Chaim, Chaim, Ay v'titen lanu Chaim shel Shalom. And he would express what he is doing, and I'm not doing it too well. But if you get hold of one of those recordings, you can hear that. And one of the things that gives me a lot of joy is to dance out for God when nobody else is looking. One of those recordings. You know, when the pleading, you know, the how are you in the, almost like a ballet of what the recording is doing. Now, you wouldn't want to do this in public, not unless you were really a good dancer. But I tell you, I've seen some people dance out prayers very beautifully. And then it's like, just like a mime is not interested in that you should look back at the mime and tell him you're doing good, you're not doing good. He sort of seems to disconnect from you and just being alone in his own world. I've seen some spiritual dancers do that. But I want to say it's really important for you, for me, to take some time out when there is nobody there, and you can set the lights low, and then you can say, I want to dance with you, God. It sounds so funny when I say it, because what do you mean, you know? But where else would the romance be, you know, clearer between my soul and God than in such a dance? So, when you do this a few times, what happens is that the next time when you get into regular davening, there's also going to be some body memory that'll come back, and sometimes it'll express itself in a gesture, sometimes it'll express itself in a sigh, you know, in an emphasis on a word, and so on and so forth, because that's how the body would respond and help out. So I wanted to talk about that because I think it's important that people should treat davening not only what you do with words, but what you do sometimes with nigunim, like we are trying with melodies and with dance. I think that it would be wonderful for people to write religious poetry. We are stuck with the poetry of the Middle Ages. And some of it is, even when you know Hebrew well, very difficult to penetrate as to what it means in the piyutim that we have. There were some people like Yehuda Halevi and Shlomo Ibn Gabirol and the author of Lecha Dodi and Yedid Nefesh, that they were doing it so that it's easier for us to tune in to that. But if I were to ask you, did you ever feel anything when you heard, I really want to see you, Lord? Yeah? it was such a wonderful thing when I heard it the first time. And I got it in all the languages, and here is Yedid Nefesh, Liros B'tiferet Ozecha, I want to see your beauty, it says that in there. But here, it comes in a way that is very contemporary to us. So the use of music, to think that Jewish music means basically Slavic music from Eastern Europe, that's a mistake. Because we had music from Spain, and when you listen to Ladino music and you listen, all these wonderful, and the Yemenites sing differently, and the Syrian Jews and Baghdadi Jews sing different, the Moroccans sing different. So they all had wonderful melodies, and they came from the earth where they were, from the land where they were. So when my first visit to Colorado was at the Estes Park Hotel, at the, what is it called, the Stanley Hotel. And I was there with two other presenters, and it was the district of B'nai B'rith that had a retreat there, and we were scholars in residence. So they gave me the cover to do Kiddush, and I began, Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ava u'v'ratzon. People started to giggle because they recognized I was doing Home on the Range, But then they didn't understand what I really wanted to get to, which was, for the seldom is heard, Shabbos is a day where the seldom is heard, a discouraging word, and the sky isn't cloudy all day. There is an element where things come together. And we used to have a feeling that if it sounds too goyish, but when I start thinking about it would be like in a Russian roadhouse where people would be singing those sad songs. They came, they were from there. The Bobover Hasidim sing stuff that fits for Central Europe a lot more, like in major keys and so on and so forth. It depends where it is. Music is that wonderful place. But we used to think, no, this is not our music. And who used to say that? The old-timers who never experienced the new music. Like a feeling thing. They didn't experience that. The same way as they had an allergy to music that isn't the music that they knew, they also have a terrible allergy to other religions. And that brings up a question that people sometimes have, and they say, I would like to visit another house of worship. I'd like to see what happens there. And my experience has been, almost every time that I went, that I would come home and would say to myself, oh, how beautiful it is, how these people worship. Oy, how I have to improve to do it better, To me, it wasn't like I want to become them, but it was also something that I could see how they are doing it and how for real it got, And that's really what it's all about. How will it become real for real? On the other hand, like we were talking about those 5 stages before, there is the symbolic stage. And a lot of stuff that happens in other religions has a lot of symbol stuff there. You come into a Hindu temple, you ring a bell to announce yourself, boing, boing, I'm here, We say Matovo or Halecha Yaakov, a Catholic sprinkles himself a little hot, holy water and makes a sign of the cross. They all have ways of entering the sacred space to announce themselves. Then, as I keep on watching how the liturgy progresses, and I see wherever the liturgy has been more organic, there it had the following things. It was a way of going up, coming to a summit, and then coming down. And if you watch the davening, you see the same thing. Birchot HaShachar, Psukei de Zimra, Kriyat Shema, Shema, Amida, and then you come and you come down. And if you look at that curve, you see it's very much like a masculine sexual curve. It builds up, 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 and then goes down very fast. On the feminine side, it wouldn't necessarily go that way. It would come down much gentler afterwards and taking it in deeper, and it takes longer. I feel that when people say, how come God doesn't answer my prayer, is because they hang up too soon, the telephone. There isn't any time taken on the way down. So what am I supposed to do on the way down? I have to remember what happened on the way up that touched me, that I don't want to forget. So when I'm climbing down the ladder, I'm plucking all the fruit that ripened on my way up, so that I could take it back with me and invest it in the day that I'm about to go and do. So I had an insight, let's say, Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav. How wonderful it is, how happy, how glad it is for people to have a God. How wonderful that is. So I got that on the way up. Now I want to take it back with me when I come down. So when I go out, I'll say a couple of times a day, I'd like to remember that, where I was, you see? That is taking the fruit of the davening and bringing it down. If I see how it works, it goes from the bottom, goes higher, higher, higher. And then I go and watch a Roman Catholic Mass. And I say, see, they also have that. There's some other places I go to, they go like this, and they never go up. And that means that you've never gotten there. You haven't had a spiritual orgasm. Because to a way you have to come to the point to which you wanted to come. And then having experienced that point, you want to come down and take along from there everything that has happened. So you can see that in certain worship situations, like I said, in the Roman Catholic Mass, Greek Orthodox Mass, and so on. But you can also see it in other places. When I look around and I see it's noontime, and maybe I'm downtown, and there's a guy who gets on his knees and says Allahu Akbar and starts worshiping there, and is not ashamed to do this in front of all the other people. It gives me such a respect for him that when I come back to start davening, I can ask myself, am I prepared to so testify to God's presence in the world as this person is? You could see how the business of testifying, is why they call the martyrs shaheeds, because they're testifiers. It's a big deal there. Okay, Shema Yisrael should be the same way for us, and so people would do that. If Cholila v'chas they would be killed, they would scream out the last word, Shema Yisrael. I want to be able to do it before the last breath, to be able to say Shema Yisrael. So, so you can learn a lot from visiting there. What should be the right kind of how do you say it? The people who say how the proper manners. They write books, etiquette, yes. What's the proper etiquette when you go to another house of worship? The first thing that I have felt was that I always wanted to let someone there know greet a person and say, I've come because I want to participate in your worship. And if you wouldn't mind, would you sit next to me and explain to me so that I should be... And you make eye contact with people. And some people make eye contact very easy, and you'll say, excuse me, I'm here as a guest. Would you please guide me in the thing? Then you can say, it is my custom that in the presence of God I always wear one of those. I hope it won't offend you. Okay? I have found times that I had such beautiful connections when I would do a retreat in one of the Trappist retreat houses so that I could be there in silence for a while. And when the time for prayer came, I would find a place in the back of the chapel where I would stand with my talis and tefillin and daven along. When they were saying the Psalms, I could say them in Hebrew while they said them in English. Before I used to do it with the people when they did it in Latin. There is such a sense of solidarity. My God becomes bigger, not smaller, by the fact that I worship side by side with another person. I had occasion to be side by side with people who were doing the Islamic Salat and other kinds of worship too, and sitting with them in silence and so on. And the big question is always, would you understand that if I do this with you, that I don't mean to give up my religion? I'm doing it here like a guest, and I don't want you to think that I come here, I'm looking for you to be a missionary to me. But I want you to know that I come here in a way that wants to honor your place and what you're doing. I think that would be the proper etiquette for stuff like that. When we were talking way back about Rikud in the second session, we were talking about having Rikud with a teacher. And the teacher doesn't necessarily have to be alive in this world. So if you talk to a Braslava Chassid today, he will say, I'm a Chassid of the Braslava Rebbe, and what makes you a Chassid? I study his works, Likutei Maharan. I read the stories that he told and try and visualize them, picture myself in those stories. And that's how I tune in to him. When people used to talk about having a patron saint, what did that have in mind? If you can read like a book, a Heschel book, for instance, and you stay with that book for a while, you don't read it just cursorily, once, but then you go back and you ask yourself, how did it feel to him, what he is describing here? Could I get into that a little bit? Could I get to feel that? And that way you become a chassid, as it were, of that Rebbe. And it doesn't have to be permanent. But while you're reading him, he is your spiritual ally because you're booting his software, and that gets you right quick to the place where you want to go. So find such books and make sure that you have someone, a companion, for a while, because you will gain a lot from that. I want to talk about Shabbos. Since we have been learning that everything in Torah has 4 levels of interpretation. There's the simple level, It's called pshat. Pshat means just, nothing fancy about it. So when it says, I give you Shabbos in order that you and your ox and your donkey and your servants and that you can all rest on Shabbos. There is a situation where a person will say, I'm not going to shul, I'm not going to do anything else but stay and rest Shabbos. Most people have never experienced that. It's been always so busy, got to go to services, got to do this, got to do that. So much to do on Shabbos. But sometimes on Shabbos I lie down on the floor and stretch out and let go every one of my muscles. I breathe in, I breathe out, and then I let go of the leg muscles, the shoulder, and so on and so forth. And then I have a sense after I'm really being carried by the ground. That's doing Shabbos. I've done Shabbos in Pshat, okay? Obviously, there are higher levels of Shabbos too, even in the Pshat level, but if I then go to the business of Remez, I realize that Shabbos is not just a certain amount of time. It's a kind of being. And that's the being that says, I need not to strive. Everything is as it should be. You remember that wonderful thing that was called, it escapes me at this moment. It was sort of a declaration that they claimed was found in a church, St. Paul's Church, and it says, as you walk quiet in those...
Desiderata.
Pardon?
Desiderata.
Desiderata, right. That was such a wonderful piece. And I felt that this was a very Shabbostic piece. You're a child of the universe. You have a right to be here. You don't have to strive for anything. Whatever you need is right in you, and so on and so forth. And all is right with the world. At this point, the Shabbos isn't only with you and your body, but now you are tuning in to a feeling place. I used to live in Winnipeg, and sometimes with the wind chill factor, it was about 70 below. I would come home from shul on Friday night wearing a fur-lined coat, and my mustache and my beard had icicles on. And I came into the house, and I said, Good Shabbos, and there was like a thawing out, a kind of, letting down. I'm finally home. The smells are wonderful, and I can now relax. Now I'm home. Now I'm in Shabbos, okay? I liked saying Good Shabbos that way a lot better than Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. I feel this is like a train going, with that clipped rhythm. I like the expansiveness, Good Shabbos, that way. Then there is an element that has to do with mind of Shabbos. It sees, the perfection of things. If you ask Moshe Rabbeinu, how did he feel as a Jewish leader? I couldn't imagine that he would say, I had such a good time. But nevertheless, we say, Yismach Moshe b'matnat chelko. Moshe is really happy with the gift that God gave, that Hashem made him the mediator of Shabbos for us. You know? And then you begin to think about what does it mean to be productive, what does it mean to enjoy what there is, and you look at the difference between how the world is out there during the weekdays, and you recognize what it could be beyond Shikula Shabbos, if everything in the world would be harmonious and organic, how this would be. So then you go into the vision of Shabbos, and that's the next level of that. Every phase of Shabbos has a different texture. Friday night, according to the Zohar, tells us that this is called Chakal Tapuchin Kadishin. It is a holy apple orchard. Now, what's the apple orchard? When we say on Friday afternoon before Shabbos, we say the Song of Songs. And then it says that the lover reminds the beloved, saying, it was underneath the apple tree that I stimulated you, my beloved, So that's a marvelous romantic picture, but it also says that is the time for the Shechina, the Queen Shabbos. You get all that. Shabbos is at that point really feminine, and you celebrate coming home to mother. And despite the fact that the Shulchan Aruch says that the Seudah of Shabbos noon should be the fancier one, it never is. It's the Friday night one that is always more fancy. Because, it's closer to the cooking and so on and so forth. And you're coming home to mother. And how does mother show you love? Mein Kind, S. A whole week you were deprived. Here, I want to take away all deprivation from you. I want you to really be at home. Eat, enjoy. It comes in this way. If I start looking at the universe as being like my mother, as nature as being like my mother, how I'm being buoyed up, I'm getting air to breathe, I'm getting food to eat, gravity is holding me up. I go into all these things, and I celebrate that. That would be the flavor of Friday night, including the situation that the Zohar says that that's the night for lovers. Because it's the time when God and the Shekhinah are also together. Shabbos morning, so Friday night is like Father Abraham, or the first temple in Jerusalem, It was that period, sacrifices, rich, a lot of stuff going on there at that point. Then Shabbos morning is not Abraham, but is Isaac. And that takes you up to such a high place where Isaac was on the altar. And in Kabbalah, that's called the Ancient of Days. And that is very mental. And that's the reason why people study and talk Torah and read the Torah and all that. And it doesn't have the same visceral feel, Shabbos morning, that Friday night has. You see what I mean by the texture of things? And Shabbos afternoon for Shlishis is different, and depends if you've ever attended a good Shlishis. The melodies, the sun is setting, there's no artificial light there. You sit with the group as the Shabbos is waning away, and you are singing those songs, and then you hear a little bit of Torah that you reflect on. You sit some of it in the silence, he sings mirrors, and the Shabbos goes away slowly. See, it's another flavor. And if I were to ask, most American Jews have only had Friday night, and that's when it's good. I'm talking about renewal, davening with happiness and with dancing and so on. But most of the shuls, that's not what's happening. But nevertheless, if you're there and there's no bar mitzvah or anything like that, you're there just because you want to daven, then you have a certain routine that you follow, and it makes you feel good that you do it. And that's also good. But the attitude that comes Shabbos morning with a longer davening and with Torah reading and so on and so forth is a different phase. You're in it's almost like you could say, I have to go to another congregation to do that, you know? And when that happens, you get a feel that there's a different flavor. But most Jews haven't had Shlishis. Even if they've been for Bar Mitzvah and Shabbos morning, they haven't really had Shlishis. That sense in which you sit together and you ask, where will I take the energy, spiritual nourishment that I will need for the week? And that's where you draw it in. It's like Ne'ilah at this point. Yom Kippur is going away, and you want to know, like, have you achieved it? Have you been forgiven? And so on. It feels really that kind of a strong time. And it's important that people should know that. But then there is another phase that most people haven't paid attention to, which is the Melave Malke, taking the queen, escorting the queen away, after Shabbos is over. And that was the time when people would take out their fiddles and they would play Niggunim and they would sing songs and they would celebrate. And I remember when I was in Winnipeg, that was the time where they cooked the potatoes and herring, and put out schnapps and sometimes beer. And people would come and celebrate. And it was like everybody loves Saturday night. It had that feeling. And that's called the meal of King David. And that's when there would be poetry and recitals and all kinds of wonderful things would happen. And most important, stories told. They would say, if you tell a story of the Baal Shem Tov on Saturday evening after Havdalah, you have a guarantee that you're going to make a living that week. That's how it goes. I think I'm done with what I want to do today, and I want to just ask if there is some more stuff that's come up for you, because we have some extra time now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in terms of going back to dancing, with prayer, is there a way in your do you have a vision of how like you could dance with other people in a way that like in the same way we daven with a minyan to dance minyan?
Yeah. There was a congregation of people who were affiliates to Judaism, though they were not born Jewish and they hadn't undergone conversion like we would expect. And they were in Fort Collins. And their leader had followed Shlomo Karlebach around for a couple of years. And he brought back the melodies for them, and they called themselves Adat Elokim, the Congregation of God. And they wore outfits when they came that were sort of like Shlomo, white shirts, a vest, a black vest, and kippot, and so on. And the women wore nice skirts and blouses and so on and so forth, and some of them with kerchiefs. And they did such beautiful dances to those melodies of Shlomo. And they had a band that would play, and they would do that in the middle of the week, and I would come up from time to time to be with them. Now, the problem of getting a dance minyan together would be great in some other city, but Boulder should be a real possibility. And there's enough music here, and there are enough people who know about body stuff, but you gotta watch out. You don't want it to be like folk dancing, Israeli horror, and that stuff. You'd have to begin with learning body movement. I used to do that with students. I would have them lie down on the floor, and I would put on the Art of the Fugue by Bach. And then I would say, when you hear the first voice, use the right arm to dance to that. When you hear the second voice, use the left arm to dance with it while the right continues. Pa, 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 pa. And the other one, the voice would come, and before long they had all four voices up, and they were moving the arms and the legs at the same time. Before I even started, I would make him stand in a circle, and we play the hokey pokey. So we put the whole self in. Later on, after we graduated, to let the body go with the music rather than imposing movement on it, we got to the place that people were able to dance a minuet with God. The music was from the 19th Nervous Breakdown, played like Baroque, from the Rolling Stones, I think it was. It was a very beautiful piece that allowed you to do this kind of dance, as it were, with God. We did this all with lights down, because it didn't make sense for us to do this, because we didn't want to do it to impress other people. When you do that kind of a dance, you really have to stay inside of yourself with it. And yes, the other people can do it their way. Sometimes when it is to get to the place where you can dance a pair, dance as a pair, and still do this with the right kavanah, you have to work on that for a while. But I think that's wonderful. You have group dances, like this group comes together and goes apart, and then the other one goes in. You have so many ways. Rabbi Melave has a dance, and these are the dances that are meant to get you out of the head. And then after a while, you would see people dance in such a way that they would get ecstatic in it, and still dance as a group. Chabad people have a way of dancing as a wheel. They make a wheel, put arms into the center, and then they stomp, around the circle. And that's a very powerful kind of energizing the field when they do that. But I've seen more aesthetic ways of dancing. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't have a question. I was wondering if you could just speak a little bit more on when God doesn't answer your prayer. You mentioned a little bit about that, but I don't know my question.
One of it is the hanging up the phone too soon. The other thing is, wonderful story about a little girl who prayed to God for a particular doll and didn't get the doll. And then they said to her, so you see, God didn't listen to your prayer. So she said, it's not true, God listened, but he said no. That is a whole other element, that when you have a sense that the universe is saying, in this formulation, what you're asking is not going to be for the best of everything. And that's a very hard one to find out. So in which way should I ask it? In which way? And then you get a sense sometimes that this time, it went. Sometimes you have the wrong address for somebody on email, and doesn't go. Finally, you got the right address, and message was sent. And you feel that too. There are the times when you feel totally abandoned. I'm not going to say that you're always going to get the goodies. When he says, Eli, Eli, lama azavtani, my God, why have you forsaken me, Psalm 21. That's a heavy statement to feel that way, Or Jeremiah saying, you seducer, God, you dragged me into this thing, and so on and so forth. You really twisted my head. And it's interesting that he has the chutzpah to say it, you have seduced me, God, this wasn't right. But take a look what happens when a person says that. how real God is to him that he can say that. And so the question is, we were talking then about the flaw. And the flaw is something, it's like a contaminant in us that doesn't make us go straight, and something twists. And every time when we make a mistake, it seems to be another version of the same mistake. And you can battle with this for a long, long time. And then I told the story about the menorah that was made from flaws by the wonderful student. And everybody has a flaw. And God would not have the world with all its differentiation if we all were perfect. So the flaw is a very important part. Sometimes you can think of the flaw like a piece is missing in the puzzle. And unless you get that piece, the puzzle is never going to be right. That's one way in which the flaw manifests sometimes. But sometimes it manifests that the grid with which you see reality is not straight anymore. So I am dealing with macular degeneration in one eye. In the early phases of that, they would show me a grid. And if I could see all the lines straight, that was good. But when I would focus on the center, I would see that the center was sort of twisted out, that the lines were not straight. That was a sign that something was happening in my retina that shows that I'm not seeing too well. Now, it's very clear that if I were to ask people, try and measure people's moral sense, that I would find almost everybody having a little bit macular degeneration there, that something is not really straight. And then the question is, how do we deal with that? And that's why I think the business that we did with socialized meditation is important. Because unless we have friends with whom we can talk really clear, with whom we don't have to, for whom we don't have to hide. If I have to present myself always as perfect, then I'm going to be such a hypocrite. And I need to have somebody with whom I could level. And so before every Rosh Hashanah, I have conversation with 3 of my friends to tell me, what did you see in me this year that you think I need to shift in? Okay? So that's the kind of stuff that comes out from not being aware of my own distortions. So in Psalm 19, it says, Shegiot mi yavin, ministarot nakeni. Who knows his own error? From the hidden things clean me up. Az etam, then can I become whole, complete. Veniketi mipesharav, and I will be cleansed from great sin. So then it says, Yiyu leratzonim refi ve'agin libi lefanecha. Please accept my prayer and the meditation of my heart, my rock and my redeemer. So these are the 2 psukim that talk about that, and you want me to bring this in. Thank you. Was there anything you want to say at this point? So then we are going to say, you should have all the brochas. I wish you to be able to dance. I wish you to be able to visit sometimes with other worshippers of other kinds, so that you might get a little jealous as to how they do it, so that we might do our thing a little bit deeper and with greater commitment. And don't forget, talk in the vernacular to God. All the blessings, Kol Tu.